Hello and welcome to the Playbook 11 podcast, head of the Australia v India Test Series opener in Perth. I'm your host, Tim Williams. Excited to kick things off ahead of what's going to be a blockbuster summer of cricket down under. My first guest for today's show and a regular member of the Playbook 11 team. It's 32 Test and 42 ODI veteran for the Black Caps, former New Zealand international turned superstar commentator Simon Doull. Doull, how are you, mate?
Very good. Thank you, Tim. Looking forward to this. Two legends of the game, sort of with the names on the trophy of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. And I cannot wait. I think there's going to be a little bit of spice involved in it as well, mate.
For a very brief moment there, mate, I thought you were referring to two legends of the game as myself and my next guest, Cricket Australia commentator and former Sydney Sixers media manager, Max Bryden. Maxie, how are you, mate?
G'day, Timo, mate. Doing well. And I tell you what, I'm absolutely Natish ready for this one. It's going to be a massive series. I can't wait for it.
I've started early, the puns, haven't they?
Oh, some of your finest work to date, Maxie. So Maxie's background, he's an expert in fantasy sport, in fantasy cricket. He's worked in and around the game for a long, long time. And as for myself, I mean, Dooley's resume, it speaks for itself. We all know who Dooley is. But myself, well, I'm a self-proclaimed, I should say, fantasy cricket expert down under in Australia. I've played fantasy sport for over 15 years, and I've also worked professionally in fantasy sport analysis for over a decade. So what is Playbook 11 here to do? More importantly, we're here to provide expert Dream 11 advice from Australian soil with our local knowledge. We know the players, we know the venues, the local conditions, all of that good stuff. We're going to transfer that into Dream 11 contest to help you select your teams and try and get you a few winners along the way. We're going to be covering all 5 of the tests this summer between Australia and India, along with some of the Big Bash content as well. A few of the contests there will be on top of. Guys, if you want to follow us along, we're available on YouTube, so subscribe there. We're also available via the audio podcast, Apple, Spotify, all those places, wherever you listen to it. Subscribe to us there and follow along throughout the summer. Our social media channels, we're available at Playbook 11 on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, so you can follow us there too. Now, boys, let's get down to business. Let's get down to business ahead of the first test of the Border Gavaskar series. Predicted teams. We'll start with you, Dooley, as our Indian expert, I suppose. What do you think the 11 is going to look like for India heading into the first test?
Yeah, some injury concerns. Obviously, no Rohit Sharma there as the skipper, so Bumrah takes over from that point of view. Injury concerns around Shubman Gill. So it looks like DDP, our good mate, Devdutt Padikkal, will line up at number 3. A reprieve for KL Rahul at the top, along with Yashasvi Jaiswal, should open the batting. Kohli at 4, which is a given. Rishabh Pant. Dhruv Jurel, who's been in great nick in Australia in the early part of the Indian tour there, both in the warm-up match and also in the intra-squad match. Conjecture around the Jadeja-Ashwin selection. It looks like they might go for Ashwin ahead of Jadeja and play Nitish Kumar Reddy, the all-rounder. So that gives them batting at 7 and 8. And then you're into the bowlers. I'm sure they're going to go with Suraj Bumrah, and Prasidh Krishna should get the nod, I think, as that third seamer.
Oh, big news there. Yeah, I'll tell you what, if Jadeja does miss out on selection, as an Australian who's seen him do plenty of damage down here over the years and in recent series, it makes me happy. It really does. And Dooley, let's get one thing straight before we get into this. There's obviously going to be some Australian bias from myself and Maxie over there, but as a proud Kiwi yourself, you're based in and around, you cover a lot of the IPL and a lot of Indian cricket. Where does your allegiance lie in this one, mate? Is it with the Australians or the Indians?
It's just with great cricket. I'll be honest with you. This to me is like watching the Ashes. The England, Australia, obviously in the Ashes, one of the great series you always watch. This to me is up there with that from a India Australia point of view. It's just about watching the great cricket. I know I do most of my work in India and around the IPL and around Indian series as well. Absolutely love going there. I don't have any allegiance. There's a lot of times though, fellas, I do like watching Australia getting beat. I do. I'm going to say it. I'm sorry.
I was about to say that you're just looking after your masses of Indian followers, Dooley, but you've just turned that on its head straight away. So you can be public enemy number 1 for this podcast. It's good. We need a bit of balance. So it's not a bad thing at all. And Maxie, for the Australians, probably a far more settled and predictable 11. What do you have for us there?
Yeah, it shouldn't be too many surprises, particularly the only spot that was really open in the team was who was going to open the batting. Once we knew Steve Smith was going back down to 4. But that question was answered when Nathan McSweeney was named in the squad. So him and Usman Khawaja up top. Number 3, Marnus Labuschagne, followed by his best mate Steve Smith at number 4. I think he's in for hopefully a pretty good series. And then we go into Travis Head, Mitchell Marsh, Alex Carey at 7, the leading run scorer in the Sheffield Shield so far this season. And then the bowling attack, I think where the Aussies are probably pushing ahead as favourites in this one. Captain Cummins, Mitch Starc, Nathan Lyon and Josh Hazlewood as well. So no surprises and an all-star bowling attack.
Very good, mate. Exciting things ahead. Let's get on to the deck, the venue, the local conditions, the stuff that we say we know so much about. Optus Stadium over in Perth, Western Australia, of course. Traditionally hard, bouncy decks over there. Plenty in it for the seamers, the big, tall quicks. I'll start with you, Doull. In terms of a Dream 11 perspective, how do you see this one playing out? Do you feel the preference to load up on the star bowlers and go heavy on the bowling side of things? Do you think there's going to be runs in it for the batters? Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the bowlers, to be honest, and the quick bowlers and the taller quick bowlers in particular. I think the bounce, the pace. Max, you'll tell us a little bit about the weather conditions shortly, I think, because it hasn't been that flash. But generally, it's hard, fast, got grass on it. You've got to get your length right. And at times, touring sides, when they turn up in Australia, they just err on the short side. They don't get the ball full enough. And I think that's where the Australian quick bowlers will probably have it a little bit over the Indians for that first test match in particular until they really find that right line and length. I'm leaning towards the quicks and more the middle order players because I think it's been very, very difficult for the top order batters.
Very interesting. Good insight there, mate. And Maxie, what about yourself, mate? Do you feel similar going over there, leaning into the bowlers, the middle order bat, opportunities for the top order, or are you alongside with Doull, or do you disagree? What do you reckon?
No, unfortunately on this one I do have to agree with our mate who's not going for Australia. And look, I guess the only thing I'll add there is that we're so used to pace and bounce in these West Australian wickets, and I think that we will get that, but also what's really become synonymous with the West Test has been the breakdown of that pitch and really the big cracks and the dryness, which kind of brings in a lot of variety for the fast bowlers, but also the spinners late on this test. Now, unfortunately, we've had 3 days of rain in the lead up to the first test, so I just think that potentially with quite a wet square, we might not see that pitch breakdown as quickly as we're used to with this Perth test. So maybe it'll go a little bit longer than we're used to. And I'm thinking sort of late day 4, early day 5. I reckon we're in for a result for this game.
All righty. Thank you, Maxie boy. Now let's get into our team selection for the Dream 11 contest, the one you've all been waiting for. And this is how it's going to work. Look, I know a lot about cricket. I consider myself a cricket expert, but if we're putting it in, cricketing terms, I'm sitting next to 2 internationals and I'm a local grade cricketer. So the boys are going to have they're going to have their opinions on each player. And if they headbutt and they've got different opinions, I'm going to be the tiebreaker and I'm going to come in over the top with the final say. Boys, let's start with the wicket keeper position. Pant is at 87%. Massive, massive ownership. You've got Rahul also available in the wicketkeeper slot at 16%. Pant's at 9 crore. Rahul at 7.5 crore. Carey at 7 crore. He's at 23% ownership, so significantly lower than Pant. And then you go down to Jurel at 2.37% ownership at 6.5 crore as well. So some massive swings there. Dooley, the players in this certain contest that we're looking at the moment, they're all leaning towards Rashad Pant. Who catches your eye there? And we'll start with Pant. Do you have to have him or can you go against him?
I find it tough to go against him. I think he's such a talented player. He is better than just a white ball striker. He's a really high quality test match player. Good keeper, solid keeper. Probably not. You probably have Alex Carey just slightly above him from a keeping point of view, but with spin not being as prevalent in Perth, I sort of got to have Rishabh Pant in my side, to be honest. I just think he's too much of an X factor player, even with 80% of the field taking him. I really like him.
Mate, what we can do with this team, of course, we can get through, we can pick our 11. If we need to come back and tinker with it, we can. But moving on, Rahul and Carey, are you interested in putting either of those two in there as well? Alex Carey is coming off the back of some terrific domestic form in Australia, or are you happy to steer away from them and just stick with Pant in the wicket-keeping slot for the moment?
I look to Maxi at this stage because I know he's obviously been terrific form through that domestic series at home, Maxi, and I mean we're thinking probably looking towards middle order, lower order players. But if Aussie do so well, is Alex Carey going to get two bats?
Yeah, I think that's always the concern. Then the kind of rule that I've got is that I don't want to decide if Alex Carey is going to make my team until I see the toss. If Australia are going to get an opportunity to bat first, then I do think they will potentially bat as long as they can, and he might get that opportunity to really score those runs. The thing you've got to keep in mind, though, with Alex Carey and the way that I pick my Dream 11 team is certainly by writing a bit of a script for how I think the game is going to go. And in this one, I'm predicting the Aussies are probably going to be the stronger side, which means hopefully 20 wickets in the win and potentially a bunch of catches behind the stumps, which are pretty valuable for him. So for me, I reckon you can fit both of those keepers in your side. So I'll definitely be picking Alex Carey.
All right, we'll lock them in for now. We've got live team selection happening here. Punt in, Alex Carey in. Boys, we move across to the batting order. Steve Smith, it's 69% ownership at 9 crore. Virat Kohli, 59% ownership below Smith, which is interesting at 8.5 crore. Travi Head, 80%, 8.5 crore. Rohit Sharma, obviously not available in this one. Usman Khawaja, 17.8% at 8 crore. Marnus Labuschagne, 8 crore. He's 35% ownership. Jaiswal, the prodigy, the opener at 56% ownership. The selectors haven't missed him there. He's 8 crore. Moving down, there's a couple of options there. I'll start with you, Dooley. Of the batters, who takes your eye? It's an interesting one because Smith and Kohli in particular, that 59%, I can see that rising before the first ball is bowled and when teams have to be locked in. Obviously, with all the Indians getting amongst it, there's going to be bias for Virat. He's been out of form. We know that. Can he bounce back? Probably. I think he has 9 international tons on Australian soil across tests and one-day internationals. How do you feel about starting at the top with Smith, Kohli, and probably Travis Head? Who do you want?
I want Travis Head. I want Travis Head all day long. Sorry, there's someone at the door. We'll worry about that later. These sort of things happen when we're doing live broadcast, don't they? We all know about that. Travis Head's got to be my side. I just think the X Factor, middle order player, I've got to have him in the side. Of the others that you mentioned there in Smith and Kohli, I'd be prepared to forego both those if we can find plenty of bowlers and the other middle order players in and around them, to be honest.
Maxi, what about yourself?
Yeah, look, I've got to agree on Travis Head, and I think the thing that's probably a little bit underrated about what he could bring to this game is a fair bit of bowling. We know with no Cam Green in this side, the Aussies are only going to be going in with the 4 specialists, and he potentially, along with Marnus Labuschagne, are going to get more overs than we're potentially used to. I think of the rest of those batters, you can always take a punt on that gut feel player who you think is going to go big when it comes to the bat positions. I look at Kohli, not really doing it for me at the moment. I look at Marnus, potentially not doing it for me at the moment. He's going to have to face a lot of a fresh Jasprit Bumrah. The 2 guys I reckon we could roll the dice on potentially would be either Jaiswal, just because of his X factor, and I'm so keen to see this man on Australian shores. The other option is potentially Steve Smith as well. I think just the way that he played that one-dayer at the MCG against Pakistan a week or 2 ago, I think he's potentially coming in to score an Aussie summer century, which he missed out on last season against the West Indies and Pakistan. So I think he'll be hungry. So I reckon we're going to pick either one of Steve Smith or Jaiswal.
Not as hungry as Dooley at the moment. He's got housekeeping at his door in his hotel, and he's got a cheese platter for him. He's mid-podcast. How are you going with that, mate?
Trying to get a bite before I go to work, boys.
All right, boys. So we're going to lock Travis Head into our team by the sounds of that one. Maxi, relatively keen on Jaiswal. What about yourself, Dooley? Is he a bloke you want in your team? Obviously, first time playing down under. How's he going to find these decks, the Australian attack? What are your thoughts? Do we want him or do we not?
I think if anyone's going to take them on up front, it's going to be Jaiswal. I look at the 4 openers, and if I have to pick one, or if I'm looking to pick one, he's the one I'm going to go for. I just think that he has the ability to score very, very quickly. He does play all around the ground. My only issue will be, I think the likes of Cummins in particular will target that ribcage area. He's had a bit of trouble just hitting the ball off his hips, getting sort of tucked up in and around the ribs, but prepared to give him the first test and say he's got ability. If it does bounce a little bit, he can play the short ball quite well. And he will score quickly. If he scores, he'll score quickly. So I'd be happy to have him in the side. I'm along with Maxi on that one. I don't mind him at all.
And a smart cricketer, I think at 56% ownership, there's enough point of difference there to rivals that if he scores well, we're making moves, boys. We're making moves. So Jaiswal, he's in. We move on to our all-rounds. I think this is where it's going to get very interesting, and we're going to go very heavy. In the all-rounder slot, Jadeja, we're not sure if he's going to be selected or not. He's currently at 79% ownership, so there's going to be some massive swings if he's not named, and Ashwin is in there ahead of him at 8 crore is Jadeja. Ashwin at 63% ownership at 8 crore. Mitchell Marsh hasn't been bowling too much locally at 67% ownership. He's at 8 crore. Sundar, he's at 49%. McSweeney's available as an all-rounder, which is interesting. 5.9% ownership opening the bat for Australia at 6 crore. Of the all-rounders, Dooley, I'll start with you, mate. Who do you like?
Well, if we think Jadeja is not going to play, obviously that could be, it could change very quickly around toss time. Nitish Kumar Reddy is going to come into the picture if that happens. Bats well, a decent record in first-class cricket and Ranji Trophy cricket with bat and with ball. He might be a punt if you want to look in that direction. Labuschagne, is he going to get some bowling? Mitch Marsh, I think Maxi's got a good opinion on Mitch Marsh playing at home. He'd be one I'd consider, but I'd be happy to leave Ashwin out if he gets the nod over Jadeja, to be honest.
And if Jadeja were to get the nod, would we want him in?
I think so. I think he just offers you everything. Great fielder, the best fielder in that Indian side, will bowl enough overs. If the ball skids on a touch, if it bounces and turns a little bit later in day 3, 4, he's certainly going to offer you that. And if we're looking at those middle to late order runs when teams are in trouble, he scores quickly and he's more than useful. 3 first-class triple hundreds to his name. So he can bat.
Okay. Apologies, I did leave out Nitesh Reddy at 11.1% at 6 crore. Maxi, of the all-rounders, who do you fancy?
Yeah, I think I'm liking Mitch Marsh more and more as we go on. And yes, we know that he's very unlikely to bowl at the moment, just given his fitness and to be frank, his age. He's sort of broken down more often than he's fit at the moment when it comes to bowling. But there's just something about getting the big bison back on his home deck in Perth, which I think really excites me. I was lucky enough to be there last year at the at Optus Stadium, and he was man of the match in that game. I think he scored a 90 in the first innings. He took a wicket, and he ended up, I think, finishing off the game in the second innings, seeing Australia home. And I think that as we're looking at some of these middle order players, getting the opportunity to see Bumrah in his third, fourth spell, a guy like him could really cash in, particularly if Bumrah is not getting the support that he's potentially used to with his running mate Shami not there. So I think a sneaky one might be Mitch Marsh, because he's surprised his ownership so high, but I wouldn't mind following those people in.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. I'm less keen on him off the back of just the fact that he may not bowl. Maxi, if he's not going to bowl, who's going to be, do you think, sort of the fifth, potentially sixth bowling options? Is it going to be Marnus Labuschagne who's going to take up those extra overs, or how do you see it unfolding?
I think it will just really come down to conditions, because between Marnus and Travis, you've got two very different styles there. Yeah. You've got Travis with his darts, and Marnus can bowl a little bit of seam up or bowl a bit of leg spin. So it might just depend on what the pitch is doing. I think between the two of them, I'd back Travis to score more runs. Rather than actually going to take a wicket, though, it's unlikely. Yeah, but I think that's why I like Mitch Marsh, because batting lower in the order, we've just come to learn how hard opening the batting is in this search for David Warner in this country. So I don't mind it just for the pure principle of getting a number 6 who, particularly if Australia win the toss, he should have plenty of time to go about his work and build his innings, and it could be a big one in front of all his family and friends.
The other thing is, boys, he fields at second slip. And you're thinking about Perth, you're thinking about the seamers dominating. A lot of catches are going to go behind the wicket and to slip. And he's got great buckets. So, he might get you 3-4 catches through the course of the 2 innings as well.
Great point. And the other thing is, it's so important going between these Dream11 contests, between T20 to ODI to Test. you think, dream role, you've got that fifth, sixth bowler who might bowl a few overs. It's not T20 cricket where the part-timer comes on and can pick up some cheap wickets. It's not going to happen in Test cricket, realistically. If they get one, it's a bonus. So, all right, boys, Mitch Marsh. I'm a bit reluctant, but we'll throw Mitch Marsh in for the moment.
We got him in.
I'll take the win.
Jadeja's selection pending. If Jadeja gets picked, we'll throw him in. Boys, of the bowling contingent, and there's some absolute quality here, and this is where we want to spend up. Pat Cummins, 81% selection at 9 crore. Bumrah at 86% at 9 crore. Stark, 75%, 8.5 crore. Hazlewood, 26.22%, 8 crore. Nathan Lyon, 21% at 8 crore. I tell you what, straight off the bat, Hazlewood, Lyon, don't mind that at all. Siraj, pending selection, of course, 13% at 7.5 crore. Moving down all the way to Krishna. If Krishna can get a start in this one, 2.74% ownership at 6 crore. Very cheap. Dooley, who do you like here?
Oh, the three key ones for me have got to be Hazlewood. I can't believe he's such a low number on, and people haven't got him in. I think he will create as many issues as anyone. Bumrah's got to be there, and Cummins has to be there for mine. The other three are must-haves for me in that seam bowling lineup. I don't think. I know Maxie and I can try and disagree, but I don't think we're going to on those three at least.
And the big thing for me,
I can't, Dooley.
Yeah, the big thing for me, boys, like as a fantasy sport head, I've played it for a long, long time, and I see ownership like that, and then I think you can follow the crowd, but you're not going to win these contests. You have to find someone to go against. But at the same time, you look at players like Cummins and Bumrah, who all signs point to them having big series and big test matches, and even if they don't have the best outings, there's going to be a few wickets taken. Captaincy, the 2 times comes into it. The vice captaincy, the 1.5 times. So if someone has a Bumrah or a Cummins and they've captained them and you don't own them at all, it's just very dangerous. So, okay, I'm with you. I think Josh Hazlewood, I can't believe Mitch Stark is 50% more owned than him. So let's go. We'll go Cummins. We'll go Bumrah. What are our thoughts on Nathan Lyon, Maxi, at 22% ownership?
Yeah, I love him. And I think that he's a player who plays Australian conditions as well as potentially any off-spinner ever has. And he plays India really well. They don't like facing him. I think that he supports this bowling attack and he's able to pick up wickets in and around them because the Indians, a lot of them are going to try and attack him if they're not able to score runs freely off the fast bowlers. So I think he's in for a huge summer, and his low ownership absolutely delights me.
And we know, we talk about these Perth decks and the bouncy services that'll favour the quicks. Nathan Lyon, he's got some of the best bounce in world cricket for a spinner, so there's no reason why he won't have success as well. So look, we'll throw Nathan Lyon in there as well. Boys, I think we need another Indian bowler, especially with question marks around Jadeja, who we're pretty keen on. Dooley, I'll throw to you, mate. Of the remaining Indian bowling contingent, who do you like?
I'm going to throw a little alley-oop from the halfway line here and give you Prasid Krishna. Such a low ownership, tall, good bounce bowler, gets a little bit of shape. I think he will cause issues. I really do. And I think he's worth a punt. As you said, you can't win these sort of comps without taking a punt here or there. Yes, you got to follow the sheep as we do in New Zealand. You've got to do that a little bit now and then. But I just feel that you've got to throw a Hail Mary, and he would be my Hail Mary.
Worth a Rashad punt, you reckon?
Worth a Rashad punt. Oh no! Sorry, it took me a moment. Oh no!
Mate, I was just sweating bullets just then. I'm like, this
Sorry
is
about that. Yeah, very good.
Second. You came through though. Thank you. All right, we'll put Krishna in there as well, boys. We've got one more spot to fill in. Like, are we willing to throw Jadeja in there for now to fill out the 11? And then we can obviously preface it by saying that if Jadeja doesn't get named, we slot in someone else. What do you reckon, Maxi?
Look, I don't mind holding out space for Jadeja, but in terms of other options, the guy who's probably up the top of my list for similar reasons would just be Ravi Ashwin. We know, particularly if there's no Jadeja, he's gone about as high as 7. he's a solid enough batter, and he loves nothing more than frustrating Australians. So even if his bowling average out here isn't anywhere near what he's been able to achieve in his career across the rest of the globe, he still could pick up the odd wicket here or there, and I think that he's probably going to chip in with some handy runs and in there. So I think purely for fantasy purposes, he's a busy guy, and I think that he could do a role for us. What do you reckon, Dools?
Yeah, don't mind that at all. The only other one I was going to say, if you're looking from an Indian point of view, could be a Dhruv Jurel, been in good form through the early part of the Australian trip. The intra-squad matches, he looked really good. He's done a lot of practice in and under the helmet in the last couple of days in Perth. So, look, if you want runs, but it's a risk, I guess, because he's not keeping. And at least with Ashwin, what you are getting is bowling and batting. And if we think that it's going to pan out the way we do, and India are possibly going to be in a bit of trouble, they'll need middle order runs. So I don't mind Ashwin at all.
All right, Ashwin it is, boys. We'll lock him in. Let's move on to that. We've got our 11. So we'll lock in our 11, and we've got Pant, Carey, Head, Jaiswal, Ashwin, Marsh, Bumrah, Cummins, Lyon, Hazlewood, and Krishna. That sounds like a winning team to me. Boys, the Dream 11, our competitors, they've gone all in on Travis Head. 20% captaincy, 10% vice captaincy. He is the most popular at the moment. Jadeja is very popular as well, with question marks around his availability, of course. We will say, if Jadeja is available, he's coming in for Ashwin for us. I'll start with you, Dooley. Captain, vice captain, who are your selections?
I love the two captains who are already there with the C beside their name in Bumrah and in Cummins. I just think that, Pat Cummins, to me, he thrives in these situations. Good, good pace in the surface, good bounce in the surface. He's going to cause trouble. I love him as a cricketer. I think he's just, he's one of those all-round ability cricketers who gives everything every time he puts that Aussie shirt on. So to me, I'm more than happy to have him as my captain, and then the vice is up for debate. I'll throw it over to Maxi for that. Does he agree on the captaincy side of things, and where's your vice captain going to be? Because I've got another, well, not a Hail Mary, but I've got another one I could throw in there that I think might cause problems as a vice if we can talk about it after this.
Yeah, cheers, Dools. I do agree on Pat. I think that he's the best chance for the biggest score in this match, and does it all. But for me, it's all about trying to write the script for how I think this game is going to go. I think the Australian team are going to take 20 wickets. I don't think the Indian team will, and I think that Pat's going to have his hands on a lot of those wickets. So happy to lock him in as captain. For vice, it's for me, I'm finding it a little bit hard to look past Bumrah. I don't know what his vice captain percentage is right now, but I just do love 9%. Him as a cricketer. Yeah, 9% is pretty solid for a guy who is statistically on track to be one of the greatest of all time. A guy who I can't wait to watch also. It's just going to be such a privilege. So how does that sound? Have you got anything else for me?
Well, the only other one I thought of was Josh Hazlewood's numbers are probably very low, considering they're low as a player. What were they? 27% as a player. He's another one I think with the bounce and pace. He'll cause issues, and again, it might be a bit of a speculative thing, but if Australia are going to take 20 wickets, I think he's going to get 6 or 7 of them. To me, it wouldn't be a bad punt.
Yeah,
that's
don't
my
mind
only,
that at all.
that would, I don't mind it. If we think it's going to go the way we think it's going to go, with Australia being probably the better side in the first test, do we go with two Aussies?
Boys, I'm going to come over the top here, and don't throw your Australian bias at me. I'm going Josh Hazlewood. I think he's currently at 1.3% as vice captain, and I'm with you. I think Australia can take 20 wickets in this game. I think we'll be involved. I'm here to win this contest. I'm not here to follow the crowd. So our vice captain, Josh Hazlewood, our captain, Pat Cummins. Boys, that will wrap us up for the show this week. We'll be back next week for the second test and a recap of how we went.